Chris Lee and Blake Lovell of Southeastern 14 here. We are doing the Saturday night edition
Goodness
wrap
gracious.
up.
Just as the balls score again, Chris. My goodness.
Well, I've switched off that game because that it came long ago
I don't blame you for that.
in my office where I'm doing this, and so now I've got that on A&M and Ole Miss.
I think I'd still rather watch Tennessee and just Tennessee do what they do, man. I told you,
Well,
I
it is a
support
sight.
greatness, and I support greatness, and I see greatness from what I'm watching right now. So,
I have some thoughts on that. I will wait until we get a little further underway and get some people here because we just launched this live stream and people are just figuring out we're doing this.
Yeah.
Yeah, not the most interesting of games today. I mean, we had Florida, Georgia was a blowout at half. Florida made it a little more interesting. Georgia ends up coasting. Missouri seized control against South Carolina and never let go in what to me was the surprise of the day. I mean, either that or the way with which Tennessee is handling Kentucky. We could debate those for different reasons. Ole Miss has overcome an early deficit, and I think is going to win this game in College Station. And then we had Auburn, which defense just that defense is getting worse every week. I'll tell you, Arkansas, speaking of fun to watch, Arkansas is fun to watch.
Well, yeah. I mean, we said, I mean, if you want to watch a team run the ball, they can run the ball, but they also have, capable passing game too. We saw some of that in this game. Yeah, Arkansas is fun to watch when they're doing what they did today and, putting up points. I mean, they scored 52 at BYU and 41 today. Yeah. So,
by the way, we will get into Tennessee, Kentucky in a minute and some other games. We just started a live stream or waiting for people to get here. But one thing that caught me off guard, the report earlier today that John Cohen was in serious consideration to be Auburn's AD, and then by the end of the afternoon, he was the AD. Look, I have not exactly followed that search closely, but I mean, Cohen was a Mississippi State baseball player. He was Mississippi State's baseball coach. And up until this afternoon, he was Mississippi State's athletic director. I think that there was a rift between he and the president, I've heard, but that was in the midst of this football day. There was also that. So,
well,
which wonder if that starts the clock on Brian Harsin.
I think the clock was started long ago.
Well, okay, of course.
I know
you know what I mean.
I know what you're saying. Yeah. Well, look, let's talk about Tennessee and Kentucky because even if people aren't here, they're still watching the game. They're going to watch this on the replay. They're going to want to know what we thought here. I mean, here's the deal. Again, I think it would be like this? No. I said this could be one of those games between this Georgia game, that could be interesting depending on which Kentucky team showed up and if Kentucky could meet the challenge defensively and be able to find an offensive rhythm that we have seen other teams find before against Tennessee. Neither of those two things happened, Chris, because this was all Tennessee. Kentucky made mistakes. Will Levis, obviously not the numbers that we're going to support any sort of upset bid whatsoever here. As of right now, what is it? I think look, he's 14 to 25, 90 yards, 3 interceptions.
Ooh.
Chris, total yardage, like for
Tennessee
everyone. He was talking about the defense.
Oh my goodness. The degree to, and I don't even know what the stat sheet is. I'm usually the stats guy. I have not looked at the stat sheet yet.
Well, here's your stat.
I've watched almost all of it, and it has just been
here you go. Right there. Yeah. Look at the screen, Chris. Like there's your stat. Like, how can you we saw kind of the first half how it played out. Kentucky's done nothing in the second half. And I mean, this is, like I said a minute ago, and I'm not like, I wasn't trying to go over the top. Like, we are watching a great team. Like, this is Tennessee is just a great team. And I think it's time to realize that it's not just, well, they got this bounce or they were able to get this or they were able to get that. It's just, to me, this is a team that keeps getting better and better and better. We see that with the defense tonight. Yes, did Kentucky make some mistakes? Kentucky put themselves behind, the eight ball, so to speak, at times, sure. But Tennessee's defense was just ridiculous. And
smothering. Physical.
And their offense is their offense, right? Like I was saying this early in the game, like I don't, and here's the quote. Like, this will be the quote we will lean on going into next week. I don't know who stops Tennessee, and maybe that's going to be Georgia. But if it's not Georgia, I don't know who it is, because
if it's not Georgia, it's nobody.
I don't think it's anybody. Because the way they run their offense, like Mark Stoops, I'm sure is like, just, you saw him the entire game. Like, he's frustrated. Like, he's frustrated with the referees and all this, but like, I'm sure part of that frustration is just they had no answer, because the way Tennessee runs their offense, it's just impossible. And I've said this many times this year, until you're on the field in the game against Tennessee, I don't think you can replicate what they do, even in a practice. I don't think you can replicate it. Like, and that's what we've seen like tonight sort of play out, I think.
Well, even if you could replicate the tempo, you don't have a quarterback who never makes mistakes. You don't have three receivers like theirs. Okay, a bunch of thoughts, and I'll lead with probably the main one. I feel like, and I think reading from the comments and listening to you, you're probably here with me. This went from, is Tennessee a college football playoff worthy team? Which, I mean, I certainly thought the Vols were right there in the discussion, right? I mean, we had some questions about the defense. Our thing on Tennessee's defense all year has been, okay, it's been good enough, right? It's been plenty good enough for what that offense can do. I mean, frankly, you might only get 2 or 3 stops against Tennessee all night. So that's not a high bar for your defense to clear. But I went from thinking, okay, Tennessee's right there in that playoff contention berth, right on that verge of, you could certainly see them getting in. You could also give reasons that Tennessee might not get in. Tonight, and this was where I think the thought occurred to me at halftime, and the second half certainly did not change this. I'm going, okay, the discussion in my mind is not that anymore. Is this the best team in the country? And I think it might be. Flaws on defense and all. And by the way, the defense tonight
I was going to say, like, we could talk about flaws on defense at times this season, but there were no flaws tonight. Tonight, they were as impressive as they've been all season long, given the opponent. And we talked about the pass rush before, and that, like, in the ability, I think, to do some things there. Now, we mentioned, like, the secondary, sure, they've given up yards, they've given up points, but I mean, this is, I think, just kind of showing what they are capable of. And look, as we just said too, let's factor this in. Like, could Kentucky play better offensively? Yes. But I think you have to give Tennessee credit defensively for what they've done to kind of cause some of this stuff for Kentucky.
Blake,
they
have
some
been
of the meltdowns,
so physical tonight.
So
they've been so physical up front.
Yeah. I mean, that's the thing. So, I mean, that here's we know Tennessee's good enough offensively to win a national championship. There's been no question about that. But I think for anybody who's had a question about their defense, I think this shows you kind of what they are capable of. And I mean, look, Donovan brings up a good point. We've talked about this question throughout the season, and like we've talked about kind of that when you see a top offense against a top defense, right? Like we've talked about, what are those scenarios that play out? And we have tried to find that stat. I just, it's one of those stats that you probably never find. But it is a fascinating thing to think about going into next week, because you've just got a team that no one has been able to stop. Going up against a defense that It's not Georgia's defense from last year, but it's still a Georgia defense under Kirby Smart that are going to, are already getting ready for that game next week and are trying to figure out what they can do to slow this team down. My thing is, we've kind of talked about who wins next week, right? And what does that mean moving forward? My thing is like, if this is a good game next week and it's a close game next week, I mean, these may be your top 2 teams in the country.
Yeah.
And it's like whoever wins and whoever loses, I don't think we write off one or the other. I think we look at it going forward, and we're going to have that same discussion where if they both were to win out and one doesn't get to the SEC championship, one does, then that's when that discussion I think comes back in. So we'll see. Yep, I mean you're right, Bulldog. Next week we're going to find out because whoever wins that game will be sitting in that spot. So, yep.
Here's a thought. It may not matter for Tennessee because, okay, Tennessee's games after Georgia. Now, like if Georgia goes and just hypothetically, this is not going to happen. If Georgia beat Tennessee by 40 points or something, then yeah, maybe this is the exception to this. But Tennessee's remaining games, Missouri at South Carolina at Vandy. At Vandy will be a home game basically for Tennessee. Not that it was going to matter, but an 11-1 Tennessee team, let's say Georgia beats them, Georgia doesn't lose again, Georgia rematches with, Alabama or whoever in the title game. I mean, I guess the scenario could be, well, even if Alabama beats Georgia,
well, I think
it won't matter because then Tennessee, I think, or would they? I was going to say, if you have a 3-team SEC thing, that might be where it falls apart. But I'm just thinking, I think Tennessee, even with a loss to Georgia, is still sitting in a pretty decent spot for the college football playoff because, again, Tennessee has got the best collection of wins in the country to date.
And they just claimed it. By the way, remember, I know Kentucky didn't look like it tonight, but they're claiming another top 20 win here. Like Kentucky's 19th. Yeah. So, I mean, add that to the mix, right? So, maybe it's just that Tennessee just makes team, it's just like we said, that good to where, I don't know. People can say whether they thought Kentucky should have been 19 or not. And everybody, I'm sure there'll be people who say, well, they're overrated. But the thing is, as things stand right now, you got the number 3 team and the number 19 team. And the number 3 team has kind of showed what, they're capable of. And they have certainly flexed their muscles tonight. But yeah, that, of course, we're still a long way away from that. But all eyes in terms of that playoff potential scenario that pops up, depending on how these teams finish, and obviously depending on what happens next week, which remember, guys, too, I mean, everyone knows this, but like, it's crazy to think we've got the 2 games set up next week that the schedule, it could not have been set up any better, right? Tennessee at Georgia, Alabama at LSU. Like, it's just what a magical way this is all played out to lead us to week 10 and these 2 games that are going to carry such a huge importance, for all teams involved. So,
okay. I mean, some of the talk, okay, Kentucky's coverage just broke down, that kind of thing. I mean, they left Jalen Hyatt wide open for 2 scores tonight. And you're thinking, how does that happen?
Man, just
well, but hear me out on this, okay? Tennessee got Cedric Tillman back tonight, and he wasn't dominant. I'm looking at this late in the game. 2 minutes left, 4 catches, 22 yards. But here's the thing, Blake. Okay, if you double Jalen Hyatt, then you've got to deal with Brew McCoy. You got to deal with Tillman. I think that's it. I mean, I don't know. Maybe Tillman wasn't in the game when Hyatt scored those. I'd have to go back and watch. Yeah. But regardless, I mean, that's the thing is, okay, you're going, how can I leave Jalen Hyatt wide open? And then you start to go, well, you got to deal with this. You got to deal with that. You got to deal with that. And that's why they're so tough. I mean, I think literally we talked about this weeks ago. Did the Tillman injury, if it didn't kill them, would it make them stronger? And obviously we have the answer to that one now.
I mean, Jalen Hyatt's going to be up to 14 touchdowns now, came in with 12. I mean, my goodness, think about that, right? Like, he's going to have, I'm going to look at this, make sure I got this right. He's going to have 45 receptions, 14 touchdowns.
Man,
that is remarkable. Like, that is just an insane thing to think about. Yeah, he came into the game with 40 receptions, 12 touchdowns. Tonight he's going, let me make sure I got this right, 5 for 138 and 2 touchdowns. So, I mean, it's just ridiculous. Yeah, so just nuts.
The other thing, and look, when your team is this good, that's when everybody starts picking holes and say, how can you beat them? Or what about this? What about that? And I thought, well, Neyland Stadium's helping them quite a bit. I mean, that's a brutal place to play right now. All those things, and then you go, well, wait a minute. They could just go to LSU a couple of weeks ago and pretty much dominate down there. Did win at Pitt earlier in the year, although that's lost a lot of luster. But that was a close to even matchup at the time. I don't remember. I think Tennessee was maybe a touchdown favorite. The point is, if you want to go, well, get them outside of Neyland Stadium. They've kind of proven some things there too.
Yeah, that's kind of what Donovan brings up, like given the rhythm of their offense. I mean, obviously it's going to be, the atmosphere is going to be incredible. That's going to be the type of both atmospheres. I mean, really, let's think about it. Like I said, Tennessee and Georgia, they have at LSU, just unbelievable atmospheres next week. But yeah, when you have an offense that's in sync like that, man, it's going to be so much fun. Like it really is. And I'm gonna bring this comment up from Bulldog here too, because it's like, when you're having to ask these kind of questions, to me, that tells me more than anything. Why didn't Tennessee score more against the opponent? Like, that just shows you how good they've been. It's like, when you're having to ask, well, why did they only score 38? I mean, it's just like, I think you gotta really look at that and say, if those are the kind of questions we're asking, that team's probably doing okay. And they are just. But the thing is, they've gotten better since then. I think it's pretty clear.
Yeah,
because they're not beating Alabama, and they're not beating Kentucky the way they just beat Kentucky if they play like they did against Florida for a good portion of that game. So that's the difference. They've just gotten better. So,
well, and this will lead to my next question. If you play Tennessee, Alabama again in Neyland next week, I think Tennessee's favored. Number one.
Oh, yeah.
Which, number two, brings me to the question of, what's the line look like in Athens next week? And I've got my number in mind. We talked about this on Wednesday night.
What did you say?
I've got mine in mind.
I'm trying to remember.
Oh, I think I said,
or just what do you think it is now? Forget it. It doesn't matter.
Well, okay. I think I said 4, and I think I let Blaine talk me into maybe a little bit higher.
There's no
what
way.
I'm thinking. What I'm thinking now is Georgia by 3, because the home field advantage. In other words, my guess is Vegas will make this a pick 'em. Yes,
basically, yes. It's basically a push. You're giving the points to the home field for that, and I think you're right. I don't think it's any higher than Georgia -3, because I think we've seen that a lot, right? And that was something someone pointed out too this week when I was looking at kind of some of the talk about some of these SEC games from a betting standpoint, pointing out that I think Auburn or Arkansas was only like a 4-point favorite, I think, on the road at Auburn. But like, that almost told you a lot about where Auburn was at. Was like, they're the home team. Arkansas struggled a little bit, yet Arkansas still like in a 4-point edge there. Like, it's just, I don't know, it's one of those weird lines that when you really looked at it, you're like, man, I think Arkansas is more than 4 points better than Auburn. But I just think I would be surprised if it's more than Georgia -3.
By the way, pause in the thoughts on UT here for a minute.
I'm going to turn it over to A&M.
Quinshon Judkins is a handful, man. He just darn near busted about a 70-yard touchdown run. A&M ran him down at the 14, but that may, if Ole Miss can cash in here, that may do it. Ole Miss is up 24-21 with 8 and change remaining, and at the A&M 14 first down now.
JD brings up a good point.
So good
about like this on the like elite teams. It's like, yeah, like when Georgia gives up a touchdown, it's like, oh man, what's wrong with Georgia? But it's like, we know how good this defense can be, and it's just going to be stylistically, it's just going to be so much fun to watch how that game plays out.
Yeah,
just like I said, I just, Chris, I'm being serious about this. If it's a close game, and like, I know how this works. We are total overreaction in this era with social media and everything, but like I think there's a good chance you're seeing the two best teams in the country play next week. And barring a blowout on either side,
I think you are.
I think you're still coming out of that thinking those are two. They may still be the top two teams or two of the top 3 or 4 teams, just depending on whatever you think about everybody else. But I mean, that's why I think this is going to be, it's going to be something. So,
well, and let's talk Georgia for a minute. And this is where, when you're elite, you get put under a microscope and you're looking more for what's wrong than what's right, because what's right is obvious. There were a lot of things I didn't like about Georgia today. I didn't think Stetson Bennett was particularly sharp. You saw the Brock Bowers touchdown, I'm sure, which is one of the more remarkable.
Is
he the best college tight end ever?
I don't want to get into that discussion because I'd have to really look at this, but
I mean, he's on that short list.
I don't. My memory, you know how it works. It's just not.
Yeah, I know. I mean, I'm thinking Jeremy Shockey maybe, or I don't know, but anyway, he's good. He's really good. But I mean, that should have been a pick. I thought Stetson Bennett threw a couple other bad balls. You got a tight end drops one wide open. Georgia's leaving receivers wide open at times. Maybe that's playing with the 28-3 halftime lead or whatever. And it probably in the end amounts to nothing, right? But I'm watching Tennessee today and watching Georgia today. If that's all those teams, I walk away convinced Tennessee's the better team. Which, of course, that's not the way it works. But
I was gonna say we will find out next week. We will, we will certainly see. Because I mean that's the difference too, right? I mean, we've talked about that, the difference in the schedules. Again, and we will say what we said earlier. Like, remember, I know everyone's gonna look at the score and just be like, well, Kentucky should have never been the number 19 team or whatever, but Tennessee has now gained another top 20 win, and in the most impressive fashion yet, given how they did it tonight against Kentucky. But that's the thing too. Like we kind of talked about, this is Georgia's gearing up for the toughest part of their schedule now. And, like you said, some people pointed out, well, Georgia hasn't looked sharp here, haven't looked sharp there. Well, now is when, and I say it's the toughest part because, who they've got, Chris, they got Kentucky still after Tennessee. They got at Mississippi State. Obviously, Kentucky's going to have to play much better than they did tonight to have a chance to beat Georgia. But, those are the kind of things that I think you certainly look at. But, I mean, that's the thing, too. When I think about this Tennessee team, it's not just the play on the field. It's just they have been tested. Like, that's why I think going into this game next week, it is just something that you really look at and be like, man, they have been tested so many times kind of with the resume they put together, and they've answered the challenge every time. Now, this one is obviously the biggest challenge thus far because they're having to go on the road to do it against the top team in the country, rankings-wise. So, but man, you want to talk about if you, I don't know how you could ask for any more momentum going into next week's game than Tennessee got coming out of that game tonight against Kentucky, especially defensively.
Yeah,
right?
They put Kentucky through the turf tonight.
It was bad.
And Kentucky is a hard team to do that to. I've had my suspicions Kentucky was a little bit overrated. We've talked about the line. Everybody knows I'm a big stats guy. I think numbers mean something. I mean, we keep scores with numbers, so don't give me the stats don't matter. But I mean, whatever way you look at it, I mean that was a whipping, Blake, and that is not an easy team to line up and just whip.
Well, and that's some of the things we talked about. Remember what was the phrase you used about Kentucky? They were what was the word?
The whirlpool team.
There you go.
They bring everything to the middle.
They kind of always, yeah.
If they'll beat Northern Illinois by 7. And maybe lose to Alabama by 7 the next week. I mean, that's an exaggeration, but you know what I mean. Play to the level of competition is maybe a better way to put it. Well, tonight that didn't happen.
Yeah.
That was a whole other level of competition, I think, maybe than Kentucky had seen.
Here's another point that's brought up here.
Other than Georgia's to come. I'm sorry.
Well, let me take this a different direction because I think my sentiment on this Kentucky team, especially tonight, and I think there's been some of that before, their offense sometimes, Chris, is not. I don't know why they run their offense the way they run their offense sometimes, if that makes sense. Now, I'm not saying they got to be Tennessee, but I don't know. That's something too. But some people say, well, maybe Levis is not as good, but I think their play calling sometimes is. And who am I, right, to criticize their play calling? But I don't know. I feel like sometimes there could be a little more there, a little more meat on the bone with their play calling. But we'll see.
They couldn't get guys open tonight, Blake.
Well, no, that's what I said. Tennessee's defense. There's a lot of credit.
Well, and look, we said Kentucky's got some dudes who can run. Now, we did worry about the offensive line's ability to protect Will Levis. I don't know what the final sack numbers were, but I didn't think he had a ton of time to throw. Was taking some pretty deep drops there too. I don't know, man. That was just. I thought Tennessee would win. I thought Tennessee had a pretty good chance to win decisively because I just didn't think Kentucky could keep up with the tempo. But that game being as non-competitive as it was, I mean, just watching that thing, your jaw was hitting the floor.
Hey, SEC football says feels like '98.
It honestly, it kind of does.
It kind of does. I'm not gonna. I mean, look, and people have had fun with that over the years, right? Like that's been. I can remember, Butch Jones years and ones like that where that's kind of your phrase coming in, and everybody jumps on the train. But yeah, we hadn't seen anything like this before, Tennessee wise, since that in terms of just the sheer, dominance of the offense at times and just what they've done with this resume. I mean, it's this resume. Like it's just been so impressive. And again, man, it's just it sets up, like we said, the way this season is played out. If you're looking for those marquee games to have these two that we're going to have next week, given everything involved in terms of an SEC East, SEC West, like it's just all the pieces are there for this just to be just something. Yeah, I don't know how else to say it. So.
You were not poll guys, but I was just thinking, I wonder what happens in the poll. I didn't realize Tennessee got 13 first place votes in the AP last week. So some people are already seeing it. Honestly, if I had a vote in the poll, I think I would vote Tennessee number one right now.
I wouldn't be shocked if. I mean, look, Ohio State wins on the road. They put up 28 in the fourth today at Penn State. So
they were down with what, 8 or 9 to play?
Yeah. That's a top 15 team, and you went on the road. But what was the and look, by the way, Chris and I always say, in terms of the polls, we don't put a lot of value. We just give you our opinion of what we think. But that gap between Georgia, Ohio State, and Kentucky is so close. Like there's let's see. Georgia got 1,530
Georgia, Kentucky,
points. 1,513 for Ohio State, 1,476 for Tennessee. Georgia had 31 first place votes. Ohio State had 18. Tennessee had 13. So guess what? It doesn't matter where you rank next week because we know that in our eyes, I think the top two teams are playing next week in Athens. So shout out to Steak. Enjoy yourselves. Don't take the goalpost out tonight, Steak. They're going to
Steak, what are we eating tonight?
They're going to want
pizza's not an acceptable answer. Steak.
So, yeah, not at all.
Unless it's really good pizza.
Yeah.
Let's see. So, just briefly around the college football landscape today, Ohio State wins, Georgia wins. What's Michigan State right now?
Irrelevant.
Well, yes, but it's not irrelevant if Michigan State wins. But
I'm just kidding. No, Michigan's going to win. They're up 20-something.
Michigan State's not very good. Yeah. Okay, so that one, Bama was off. Southern Cal was, I think, ahead last I checked. I don't know that that's going to matter, but TCU won today. Oklahoma State, which I thought was a very, very weak playoff contender, got beat, took a second loss today, so they're done. But I think there's a man. Next week is going to be so much fun. So much fun.
Yeah.
Because remember, we got Alabama LSU too.
Yeah, no,
that's going to take second stage to this one, but goodness gracious.
But the implications could be just as important, because think about that. Like we said, the loser of Tennessee, Georgia, theoretically can still be in that discussion. The loser of Alabama, LSU, you've got either a 3-loss team, right, or a 2-loss team at that point, correct? So I'm getting my math right on that, right? Alabama's lost 1, LSU's lost 2.
Alabama's lost 1, LSU's lost 2.
Yeah. So the loser either has 2 or 3 losses. The loser of Tennessee, Georgia has 1 loss. And yes, that path is going to depend on a lot of other outside factors if one of those teams wins out, the losing team. But yeah, I mean, the stakes, I think, in Alabama, LSU, man, that's huge because, yeah. So
this may look like a stupid take by the end of the season because it always seems to work out. But man, a 12-team playoff right now, I think would be so compelling this year.
I mean, it would, but I mean, yeah, because I still think the SEC has 3 of the top 4 right now.
Yeah, but chances
are
it's not
Michigan,
going to.
But yeah.
Well, let me give you a for example, okay? Let's say Georgia beats Tennessee next week. Georgia beats Alabama. Alabama is otherwise unbeaten. I think Tennessee probably gets in the playoff at that point. Georgia certainly gets in. And Alabama sitting there as a 2-loss team, hypothetically having lost a close game to Georgia, and also having lost, a field goal game to Tennessee on the last second on the road. The SEC may have 3 of the top 4 teams. Probably even going to get 3 in at that point. My point is that's where I really, among other things, that's where I really like a 12-team playoff. Because it gives all those teams a chance again. And I think that would be so much fun. I mean, that's a lot of ifs, but I mean, I like the 12-team playoff anyway for a lot of reasons, but just something to ponder.
All right, I'm rolling through your comments, so they're on the screen as we go. We got a lot of comments tonight, guys, so we're gonna throw some on there. If you want to make sure your comment gets seen, and you keep it clean, you can hit that super chat button with a little heart down there with the dollar sign. I don't want to give you just open reign here to be able to say anything you want, but if you hit the super chat button, that just donates, however much you want to donate to our channel, you can do that. If you enjoy our coverage, you enjoy these live streams, guess what? That just allows us to make more videos. So we are, a startup, independent. Chris and I putting our boots to the ground here and trying to make as many videos for you guys as we can. So we always appreciate the great super chats and the great support. So we appreciate you guys as always. So I'm going to go through some of your stuff and see what we may have missed. Let's see. So let me find some of these, Chris. I've got some starred here, and let's quickly talk. Juan brought this up a minute ago. Do we feel like people are forgetting about Alabama, that their only loss is to Tennessee on a last-second field goal in a game where Alabama's win projection was so high before that missed kick? And does anyone though ever really forget about Alabama? I mean, if you've watched the game and understand, I don't think you ever really forget about Alabama. But that's what I said a minute ago, Chris. This is why that game next week is so important, because they lose that game at LSU. I don't, their path is only if LSU, at that point, right? Because as we said, LSU controls their destiny. Alabama loses next week. I mean, they are pretty much. I mean, it would take a bit, right, for them to. It just depends on what happens the rest of the way, but I think that's kind of what you look at there. So,
Well, look, for all the flack Alabama's defense has taken, Alabama's still only giving up just over 16 points a game and 4.3 a play. I mean, that's really good. I know what Tennessee did to Alabama. That is what's fresh in everybody's minds. But I mean, if you believe in the numbers, that's still a pretty strong team. So no, I've not forgotten, and that's why, among other things, that's why I brought up the playoff scenario.
Yeah. Well, we'll see. SEC football. Do I think Tennessee can beat Georgia? I think I think Tennessee can beat Georgia. But here's a great way to segue into, if you want to find out, guess what? Hit that subscribe button, which I know SEC football subscribe. But for anybody else out there that wants to find out if we think Tennessee is going to beat Georgia, we will have our Tennessee-Georgia prediction video ready for you guys as late as Monday morning, early Monday morning. Could even be tomorrow night. I don't want to hold that to it just yet, but if you want to know what our thoughts are going to be, we're going to record that tomorrow night, give our early look ahead, and then we will revisit that on the Wednesday night live stream as we always do. But our full preview, our initial thoughts on that game, we will have up by early Monday morning at the latest. So make sure you hit that subscribe button, and we will talk a lot, obviously, about these. Will probably be, Chris, my guess is Georgia, Tennessee, LSU, Alabama will probably be our two longest preview videos of the year thus far, just given the magnitude of these two games. So hopefully you guys enjoying that. So, yeah. So
I think we'll have a split decision on our picks between the three.
I think so too.
I can almost guarantee it.
Yeah. So, shout out to Scotty here for the super chat, $5 super chat. We really appreciate that, Scotty. I mean, look, there were a couple plays in that game where, if Tennessee hits a couple of those big plays, right, Chris? I mean, it could have been that, but I think when you still have Bryce Young on the other side, I mean, you just probably kind of figure he's going to do something magician like he did in that game at times. But yeah, I mean, that's the thing with Tennessee is what we said is, if you really go back and just think about how good they have been, I mean, sure, they're still like other teams where there's probably a couple plays I'm sure Josh Heupel and the staff look at and be like, should have hit that. And, again, that's just, you said it, Chris, earlier, you just have so little room for error against this offense, where it's like, if you don't get that, like, it puts so much pressure on you offensively, which some teams like in Alabama, able to kind of answer that because of what they can do offensively, but not every team is like that. And Georgia, I think, is capable with the Brock Bowers and what they can do. But oh man, we'll see. So again, Scotty, we appreciate the super chat. Yeah. By the way, bow hunting, reminding everyone, hit that like button. If you're in here right now, you enjoy this, hit that like button, hit subscribe, tell your friends, all that stuff. So there you go. All right. What else do we have? Let's get to this real quick because we had some comments on this other one. Let's see. Where is the one I was looking at Missouri here? All right. So
hey, we whiffed on Missouri. We totally whiffed. Yeah. You look at the matchup and you just divorce yourself from every other thing. I mean, I felt like Carolina. I'm not going to say South Carolina was a fraud because I can explain how it was 5-2. A lot of that was special teams. A lot of that was just being mentally tough and making plays when it mattered. But on paper, that was a really even matchup. I just thought there was a difference in belief between those two teams. Man, that is not how it played out today. Missouri's offense, which had not been good at all. I mean, Missouri was almost to 250 in total offense before South Carolina was to 50, something like that. I mean, that was a complete domination. I mean, I thought that fan base is going to be fired up today. They're playing well. They're beating good teams. So first of all, Spencer Rattler. I watch him play, and I'm amazed. I shouldn't. I don't like to be too hard on college kids. I don't. Like if you told me that kid was a Heisman Trophy contender a year or two ago, like if I didn't know who he was in the name, I never would have believed it.
No.
Man, Missouri's defense really showed up today.
Well, I mean, they've showed up pretty much all year. Like, that's what we talked about.
Other than Kansas State, and look what Kansas State did to Oklahoma State today.
Auburn, Missouri gives up 17 points. Georgia, Missouri gives up 26. Florida, 24. Vanderbilt, 14. South Carolina, 10. You know, if you think about that, holding the team in the 20s, like a Georgia and that, I mean, we're talking about like a Tennessee and the points they put up, Alabama, whoever, Georgia. But it's, I mean, that's something. So it's wild.
I think the performance against Georgia was probably an outlier, but I don't know that it's as big of a fluke as everybody might have made it out to be, because you look at them statistically on that side of the ball, they're pretty good. And if they don't make mistakes on offense, they're tough to beat.
Yeah. Yeah. So, all right, let's find some of these others here, going through here, because we do enjoy going through your comments. And as always, as we've been doing for months and months and months here, we go through your comments, and you guys are a part of the show. And don't let anyone else tell you otherwise. Shout out to SEC football. I mean, look, I said I was high on Tennessee going into the year, but I will even tell you that the results to this point, as good as they've looked, I can't say I would have thought they would be just as dominant as they've been at times. But yeah, I mean, I was probably the high man on Tennessee, but we'll see if that holds up the rest of the season. Dawson, we'll talk more about this in the preview, but I mean, that's the thing, right? Is Chris brought it up earlier about Hyatt and the return of Cedric Tillman, what that does defensively, because it just, your attention can't be, can you stop everyone like with this trio of wide receivers? And that's something I'm sure we'll talk about a lot, Chris, in terms of that preview for that game. So,
who else we need to talk about is Arkansas. We've not really gone into the Razorbacks today. They looked really good against Auburn. Auburn's defense just keeps falling another level every week. I think if you're looking for a positive for Auburn, Robbie Ashford is starting to look like he can be an answer for them. I think when he gets outside and he gets out of containment, he seems to be a little more freer and make some plays, which he did at times. I mean, as much grief as we've given Auburn's offense this year, it's been respectable lately at times. I know turnovers have been an issue, but I mean, they have shown some ability to make some plays. Can they do it consistently? I don't know. But if you're looking for a bright spot, I felt like Ashford showed some things. Their defense, though, Blake, they've just been awful lately.
Well, and we said that statistically. I mean, we said statistically, the numbers told you that Arkansas was going to just run on Auburn's defense because of just the sheer difference, on those two sides, from the Arkansas running game against the Auburn defense. But again, I think KJ Jefferson, sure, they ran the ball a lot. Sanders, I got to pull up the numbers here, but I looked at it earlier. But when you're looking at so many games, sometimes you got to go back and look at them again. But I mean, Sanders, we've said, is just such a, what else do you say about the guy, right? Like, he just, you know what he's capable of at any time. And I think having Jefferson back, that's what we talked about, just kind of the difference a KJ Jefferson can make, given, the dual ability for, him to run the ball at any time and be able to, in their passing game, kind of give them what they need. And yeah, I mean, Auburn's defense just, I don't know. So, yeah. So,
well, Matt Landers was really a handful for them today too. He had a good game. He's had a few of those lately. Sanders has just been so consistent every week.
Yeah.
I'm trying to look at the last time Rocket Sanders had a bad game, and I don't remember it, honestly.
Yeah, we'd have to pull that up, a game log, but
I am pulling it up, and I'm not immediately seeing one. I mean, he was pedestrian, I guess, against A&M, 17 for 68, but that's a defense with talent. He's now had, Rocket Sanders has now had 6 100-yard rushing games. And 4 of those were north of $155. Plus, he'll catch some passes. So,
yeah. Well, there you go. So, I mean, that was. I know Hog Barbecue who's here. I'm sure celebrating the Arkansas victory as well at the moment. I mean, the most surprising game that I think. I mean, I think it's twofold. It's obviously Missouri winning at South Carolina. Obviously, is it shocking? No, because I think we said going in the defense could make it interesting. But I mean, if you're asking most surprising, that's probably it. But the way Tennessee won is probably right there with it. If not, I just don't think winning by 38. Not even the highest of Tennessee analysts probably thought that was going to be the outcome. So, um, I think that's something. So,
yeah, I think on shocking SEC scores this year, it's probably either that or Georgia, what it did to Oregon, which you can sort of maybe create an exception for that. That was Dan Lanning's first game as Oregon's coach, going back to where he coached before in a neutral environment that, of course, wasn't because of it was being in Atlanta. And Oregon, of course, has been unbeaten since. And so, like in hindsight, well, I mean, at the time, that was a shocking score, too. I think Georgia was maybe a 17-point favorite in that one.
mm-hmm.
I think we debated that one. That seemed like a lot of points at the time, and Georgia just whipped Oregon. But I mean, I think those two, maybe you could say Tennessee beating Alabama because it had been so long, but
but that's
those
not
two teams were.
Yeah,
No, it wasn't. I mean, I think it's those two games, and I think frankly, it might be this one because just of when it is in the season. Crazy stuff happens opening week sometimes. So I think this might be the most. I mean, we knew Tennessee was good. We knew Tennessee was really good, but we thought Kentucky was pretty good too. And to see it basically not be a,
it's like,
well, and I could argue that was a little too high, but it's still a good ball team.
They were 5-2 at this 7 games in,
right.
So like you can understand it. Yeah,
we're splitting hairs at that point.
Yeah. So, well, there you go, Chris. Anything else? And we will wrap up here shortly. Again, we appreciate all the support from you guys. We enjoy doing these as usual. And remember, we cover SEC football. We are not a betting specific channel, but we give you our thoughts and previews on every game. And we always enjoy your reaction to these games because, as we said, it's always a wild season in the SEC, right? But I just feel like some of these games this year, and especially given the setup that we have going into Week 10, it's just been, I don't know. There's just something about this season, man. It's been wild. So, anything else, Chris?
Well, we might want to wait a minute if you got time, because A&M and
well, let's just go ahead and talk about it now. It's over. I mean,
okay.
it's
not.
It's going to be over.
Remember what happened last week? A&M scored in this exact scenario, got an onside kick, and had a shot to win on the last play of the game.
We'll see. So, we'll see.
A&M has now got the ball at the 7 after a targeting call. And so we'll see what happens.
Well, listen, we've talked about shout out to Jeremy Pruitt, former Tennessee coach, which I'm sure that's him, right, Chris?
He just threw it. Oh, you were ahead of me, weren't you?
Oh, I'm way ahead of you.
Oh, okay.
I'm way ahead of you at this point. So, by the way, Jeremy, we appreciate that. I know you're not the real Jeremy Pruitt, but if you are, we appreciate you. We've had Ed Orgeron in here. Who else we had in here before, Chris? We had all kinds of people. Oreo's been in there before. So.
Oreo's been in here. Kind of, I guess if you're looking for a bright spot for A&M, perhaps the Aggies found a quarterback tonight. Weigman was threw for 324, three scores and a pick.
Yeah.
I mean, he was a very talented kid coming into this year. So
we'll see. All right, at your request, we'll hold off until the end of this Ole Miss A&M game. But let's just point this out, right? Like if A&M loses this game, they are 3-5, And
wait, what happened? I looked down. I guess the interception got overturned.
Well, it wasn't an interception.
Oh, okay. I looked down and didn't see it.
Yeah. Oh, here you go. All right, Chris, you're one play away now from getting. This is like, remember was it the Florida Tennessee game? We started the thing and it got very interesting towards the end. I'm like, Chris, we gotta stop doing this. Like, Florida's about to win, and here we go. So we're gonna see if you get this one. You may get this one. Like A&M may just do something miraculous here, and if so, God, you're way you're way behind me, aren't you? I don't know why that is, but that's fine.
I have a streaming service. I don't know what yours is, but
shout out to the real Jeremy Pruitt, not the Tennessee coach though. So there you go.
That's true. He's not the Tennessee coach.
Yeah. How about this? We'll do this.
What if Jeremy Pruitt were the Tennessee coach? Think about that.
Well, they wouldn't be doing what they're doing right now. All right. How about this? You guys, we're going to wrap up as soon as this Ole Miss A&M game's over. Give us your scores for next week. Want 2 of them. Give us your Tennessee Georgia score and give us your Alabama LSU score. So, and we will do this again on Wednesday night during the live stream too, by the way. But right now, your early assessment, your early score picks, and let's talk about that there. So, I'm curious. I'm curious to see what some of these are going to be, Chris, because I know kind of what our audience lean towards. We know we got a lot of Tennessee fans in here, and we'll see. We got some Arkansas fans. Curious who they think's going to win the Alabama LSU game. That's an interesting line too. What's that Alabama LSU line going to be? And again, we're not a betting channel, which we've said 100 times before, but I don't know if everyone listens to that. But
Alabama in 6-ish, 7-ish.
Curious to see what that is. Just from
line on Arkansas Liberty, that'll be an interesting one.
Hey, there's a lot of. I'm gonna say you got some. Yeah,
Liberty's lost what, 1 game?
Be something. So, okay, Chris, are you ready to see what just happened in this A&M game? I hope you're ready to see you're about to see on your screen.
Well, what I saw was the ball get kicked into the end zone. Oh, he's screaming at what were they doing?
Oh my, we got some scores coming in. I'm going to put some of these up here.
Did they get mixed up on the kick call?
I think that's fair to say.
I don't have any sound, and I'm like watching.
I'm pretty sure. I don't know what Jimbo was not happy about something, and it has something to do with what they decided.
Would that not be the most Texas A&M thing of the year?
Like, can somebody who has the sound on, can you give us like what are they? Because I don't have my sound on because it'll interfere with what we're talking about. But
I mean, I'm guessing that was supposed to be an onside kick, and
I would assume that's what, because I just assumed they were going to. But
I mean, well, they've got all 3 timeouts, but still, that's a tough order.
Yeah. So I don't. Maybe Juan can tell us. Like, that has to be it, right? Like, because again,
I mean, I just assumed they were going to onside.
That's what I assumed. So I don't like if there was miscommunication. Like, oh my goodness, how can you even justify? Like, I don't even know, but I can't even, because they did have all 3 timeouts. But I mean, I don't know, Chris. That's I don't know. So I just maybe there's some kind of miscommunication. I don't know what's going on.
A&M has become, I don't know what the right analogy is, like the court jester of the SEC right now. Like, you just watch them to see what is going to happen this week.
Yeah. It's not good when Jimbo Fisher is
okay. You've got 3 times. I can't see the clock because the mute button is covering it up. But I mean, it was a 1-something.
It was
when they kicked off, correct?
Yeah.
I mean, you just don't have even with 3 timeouts. I mean, you're out of timeouts, and you've.
I feel like Juan is ahead of me, and I wonder if there's like a big play coming because I keep seeing his comments, and I wonder if something big's about to happen. Like every time I see his comment here, we'll see. So, I mean, look, they're getting the stop, and I think they got the. No, the clock's still running. It shouldn't be though. I don't know why the clock just ran for a second there, but look, Juan, I've said many times. Chris and I
my
joke about this,
goodness!
like, yeah. So like they still have a timeout. So here you go.
Oh man, this is.
I don't know what. I don't know why.
What are these coaches doing?
I don't know why.
Not only that was a backwards pass.
I don't know why they're running a play that gets anywhere close to the sideline, but that's just me.
Well, and obviously that, but I mean, there's a lot that could have gone wrong there.
Well, look, Jimbo may look like a genius after this, if they wind up winning here. So that's going to be, oh goodness, everybody's hanging on, waiting for this.
And you wanted to end the broadcast.
Well, I did because, in the grand scheme of things here, it's like A&M's either going to be 3-5 or 4-4, but 4-4. So, but hey, this could be, what Hog Barbecue asked a minute ago, right? What was the most surprising of the day? This would be it. So to see this, well, they're going to have to go 92 yards if they want it, or not, I mean, they got to kick a field goal, but if they want to win the game, they got to go 92 yards for a touchdown. And they got a lot of time off the clock there, so that was helpful.
Oh yeah, very, very nice punt.
Yeah.
That's the other thing is that they kept that. I guess that was an A-chain to return, which I don't know why that wouldn't be, but.
Well, here we go. This is it. Anything else? Let's see, just to wrap up from today's games. By the way, how about we do this? Let's look at our schedule for next week. We talked about the 2 games that are obviously going to get all the attention. Kentucky's at Missouri. Florida's at A&M. We mentioned Liberty's at Arkansas. South Carolina at Vandy. And Auburn at Mississippi State, in addition to the 2 headliners.
That's okay. Yeah, that is Mississippi State hosting. Yeah.
Yep. So. Yep. Well, if you're not watching this A&M Ole Miss game, then if you want to go back and restart, we've talked about a lot of stuff. Obviously, Tennessee, Kentucky, everything else. We're just kind of waiting to see what happens here before we hop off. So.
I can't see that. Can you?
Well, no.
Minus 12 Georgia? No.
I don't think it's going to be that. Yeah. Yeah, that seems. But again, we don't work in the betting business, so it may be. But I don't see how that would be the number given what both teams have done to this point. And yeah. So anyways, Chris, you want to do a quick promo for everything else we got coming up?
Well, speaking of promos, a quick one for Stakes. They're our title sponsor. We make picks at the Stakes app every week. That's STAKES. We made a bunch this week. Go there every week. See if you agree or disagree with our picks. Go to playwithstakes.com/14. Sign up for Stakes. Place your prediction, whether you're with or against us. If you use the invite code Southeastern 14 when you sign up, you'll get a double welcome bonus. Yeah, sure. Where would you like to go first?
Well, this game's over. So anything else we want to hit on? Just quickly wrap it up and everything we got coming up here on the channel.
Well, we have got a lot of basketball content coming out. We've got a lot that's come out already. We are previewing every single SEC team for the coming season. And really, that's kind of where we started almost, was a basketball channel here. So we cover that wall to wall, and baseball too.
And football.
And football, of course. But I figured people knew that. So we've got that. Do you want to get in more into our plans for
not yet.
More immediate future? Okay,
let's focus on Week 10 SEC football, what they can expect coming up. So,
by the way, as an aside, yes, I didn't see it, but I saw the score. I presume you saw it too, Blake.
I have bought the pay-per-view to watch it tomorrow.
Oh, okay. So do you?
I am actually going to watch the game. I'm going to watch the pay-per-view tomorrow. I didn't get a chance to watch it last night, but I saw the score.
You know the score. Oh, okay. So, well, if you didn't know, Tennessee beat Gonzaga in Frisco, Texas, in a televised exhibition game for charity. Usually, the NCAA, pretends that this is a nuclear secret. These secret scrimmages, you cannot talk about them. They allowed this one to go pay-per-view. Tennessee beat Gonzaga by 19 points. And what I understand, the starters played a good bit of the way for most teams. I think they basically treated it as a regular game, other than I believe they made the rule that nobody could foul out. So
I'll give you my
really
thoughts on that
impressive win.
Yeah.
Okay. Well,
once I watch it,
I'll be interested to hear that. So back to hey, good question from Juan. Juan, we plan to, I think, do some of this when we have time to breathe a little bit. Now, we've got some ideas for this, and we will certainly let you know on merch.
Coming soon, Juan. Coming soon. Merch.
So, yeah, okay, so here's what we've got coming up. We'll do, may or may not do a live show tomorrow night. That depends on availability.
Probably not. I'm just going to tell you guys right now. Probably not, because we pretty much covered everything tonight. So, yeah.
Thank you, Juan. You're always very kind. So, yeah, we will start rolling out preview videos. We preview every single SEC game for the football season. We will start doing those tomorrow night. We'll probably release those on our channel Monday morning. We're going to do basketball power rankings when, Blake? Probably Tuesday-ish?
Soon. Hit subscribe. Tuesday or Wednesday.
We will also do football power rankings. We usually put those out around Monday. I don't know why I'm asking that as a question, because I know that's when we do it, Monday lunch.
Just know we got a lot coming up, guys. That's probably the best way to put it. If you've subscribed to our channel, if you're in here, you probably subscribe. Our usual slate, plus a lot of basketball stuff coming since the season actually starts a week from Monday. So there you go.
We'll have game previews coming up in addition to the ones that we do. We'll get people that cover teams. I will probably try to grab my friend Matt Moscona from ESPN Radio in Baton Rouge to talk a little bit about Bama, LSU. Maybe grab somebody on the Bama side too. I'll probably check in with Trey Wallace from Outkick on Georgia, Tennessee. Maybe go to some of my buddies at UGAsports.com too to get their take. But we will find some extra layer of coverage for those two big games next week. Yeah, all kinds of stuff. And the thing we're really excited about, I think we just want to make sure we can nail it down before we announce it. But we're very more than even more than next week and all the stuff we're doing, which we are excited about. We're excited about this other thing that we're trying to pull off too. So.
All right. Hit subscribe, turn the notifications on. And again, we appreciate you guys. As always, if you're just joining, go back to the start. We talked a lot, mostly Tennessee, Kentucky. We talked a lot of other stuff. And yeah, we appreciate all the support. And there you go, Chris.
Yeah. Hey, thanks to our audience. We've got a fantastic audience. You guys are great. We love you. Love having you around. Your comments are kind. You ask great questions. I think that's the really cool thing about doing these, Blake. I know I look forward to jumping on and just being able to interact at the people in our channel with the people on our channel. A lot of the same names every week, which is really cool. So thank you guys for being here. So Blake, if you're done, which I presume you are. Thank you to everybody for watching. Again, hit that subscribe button. Everybody have a wonderful rest of your weekend. Be safe. God bless you all, and we'll see you again soon at Southeastern 14.